Welcome, my fellow Zambians, to the 10th of our weekly conversations. A word for any joining us for the first time. This is In Dialogue with My President. In truth, it is a monologue, the voice of one citizen in the hope that his voice reaches the ear of His Excellency, the President, every leader, and all fellow Zambians. And tonight, we speak of education. At the very moment in human history when machines have begun to think. Good evening, Your Excellency, President Hakainde Hichilema. Good evening, my fellow Zambians. Tonight, we speak of education, not of buildings and numbers alone, but of the kind of human beings our schools are making. This is a moment when the machines have learned how to answer many of our questions. And therefore, we are asking, what kind of education should we have? Mr. President, in January 2022, you began rolling out free education, tuition fees, examination fees, parent-teacher fees, all abolished in public schools. And Parliament wrote this into law. More than 2.5 million children have entered our classroom since 2021. More than 30,000 teachers were recruited in a single drive in 2022, the largest in our history. In 2025, about 70 in every 100 of our pupils passed their grade 12 examinations, the highest this country has ever recorded. And more than 4.5 million learners are now fed a meal at school. This took courage. So did sitting down with our lenders and doing the hard and unpopular arithmetic of a debt this country could not carry. Many said it could not be done. You did both. A citizen who cannot say thank you for such things has forgotten how to be just. So tonight, I do not come to take any of that from you, Mr. President. The school gates have been opened, and millions who once stood outside them now stand within them. I come to ask the question, what are we teaching our children now that they are inside the classroom? Something has changed in the world, as you know, Mr. President, and it has changed faster than any curriculum. There are now machines that can write an essay, draft a contract, read a scan, and solve a problem of mathematics faster than the finest graduate of any university in the world. Mr. President, allow me to state what this means. Most of the technical problems ahead of us, the bridge that must hold, the crop that must survive the drought, the disease that must be traced before it spreads, will increasingly be solved with the help of these machines. Zambia should use them and teach our children to use them. But here is what no machine will ever do for us. It will not decide what is worth building. It will not tell us who to forgive. It will not sit through the night with a grieving family. A machine can hold every fact ever recorded and still not know a single person. The word itself has been telling us this all along. Our word educate comes from the Latin educare, to rear, to nourish, to bring a young thing to its full growth. Its sister word, educere, means to lead out, to draw forth what already lies within. Neither of them means to fill. We were never meant to be pouring into our children. We were meant to be drawing out of them. So, the school must now do what only the school can do. It must build 3 intelligences. The first, Mr. President, is the intelligence of the open mind, and it is simply the capacity to think well and deeply. We use the word thinking often and rarely say what we mean by it. So let me say what it means for me. Good thinking or open-mindedness begins with a question and not with an answer. It is the willingness to say, I do not yet know. It looks at the thing itself before it looks at who said it. Good thinking asks, what would make me change my mind? A thinking mind is willing to drop its original view upon hearing new evidence or data. Closed thinking does the opposite. It hears the name of the speaker and immediately decides before the sentence has finished. It gathers only what agrees with it. It takes loudness as proof or evidence. A child taught to memorize learns to give the answer that is expected. A child taught to think learns to ask whether the expected answer is true. And in an age when the machine already holds every expected answer, only the second child has anything of value left to offer. The second, Mr. President, is the intelligence of the open heart. It is the ability to see how what we do here relates to how it is done elsewhere, and then to work well with people who are not of our kind. It is what allows a Zambian to build something great with a Chinese partner, to negotiate honestly with a Namibian, and to learn from a fisherman of the frozen north of Iceland. It is what allows a Kaonde to team up with a Namwanga to build a business. It does not ask others to become us or us to become them. It asks what works between us, and it comes back richer than it went. The third is the intelligence of the open will. It is the courage to try, to fail, to look honestly at the failure, and to try again. Nothing worth having was ever done correctly the first time. Try and error is not the mark of amateurs. It is the only way anything new has ever been made. A school that punishes every mistake teaches children to attempt only what is safe. And a nation that attempts only what is safe will import everything and invent nothing. Mr. President, we should not feel small in the work of reforming our education system, for the whole world is unsure. I have sat among leaders of the richest nations and heard them ask one hard question of themselves. Is our education system fit for the future we face? Their honest answer was no. Their own experts now say that schools must prepare children for jobs that have not yet been created and problems not yet imagined. Even Finland and Estonia, some of the countries the world most admire for their schools, are asking the same question. Africa has answered this question before. more than 500 years ago, on the edge of the Great Desert, the African city of Timbuktu held one of the finest centers of learning in the world, where thousands studied law, medicine, mathematics, and astronomy. The open mind is not something Africa must borrow. It is something Africa once taught the world. Our own cultures were great schools too, teaching by doing, by story, by initiation. So let us send our researchers back into our traditions to recover what worked there. Not everything old was wise, but not everything wise must come from abroad. Mr. President, I must now say something harder, and I say it as a citizen who wants you to succeed. An education of this kind cannot be taught in classrooms alone. It is obtained from the people we watch. And the person this nation watches most closely is you, Mr. President. So when you stood in Mazabuka a few days ago and spoke about your former colleague, Mr. Gary Nkombo, and opened by asking the crowd, "Can I spill the beans?" something closed in many of us who were listening. The grievance may well be real, but the moment did not show us the open heart. Mr. Nkombo replied that the conduct fell below presidential behavior and asked that his family be left out of it. That reply, Mr. President, is a lot of data. Emotional intelligence may apply to how our laws are made. The cyber laws were passed in April 2025, and many Zambians first learned of them from the advisory of a foreign embassy. The Law Association of Zambia went to court. Bill 7 was struck down by the Constitutional Court over its process. It was revised and passed in December. Some of what it carries is genuinely good, including the 40 seats reserved for women, youth, and persons living with disability. But a good thing done to people rather than with them does not build the trust on which a nation runs. And it is hard to explain to a young Zambian why laws this government once questioned from the opposition benches now moved at such speed from the government benches. Development cannot be done to people, Mr. President. It can only be done with them. Emotional intelligence also applies to how we make and handle promises. From the opposition benches, you and your colleagues made many pledges to this country. Some have been kept. Many have not. That is not my complaint, Mr. President, for no government has ever kept all or every word it gave. My concern is what follows. A leader with an open heart does not labor to convince citizens that their lives are better than they feel them to be. He says honestly, here is what we promised. Here is what we managed. Here is what we did not. And these are the reasons why. And where it is odd, he says, sorry. Mr. President, I'm sure you agree with me that you do not tell people how to feel about their own lives. They tell you, and you listen. This is what our schools must now teach. Because the child who learns to say, I fell short, becomes the adult who can lead without pretending. Now I can already hear the reply, and it will come from those who love you and wish you well. They will say, a man cannot be judged on one hot afternoon in Mazabuka, that he was provoked, that far too much is being asked of a single human being. And they are right. Too much is being asked. It is an unfair weight, and I will not pretend otherwise. Unfortunately, that is precisely what that chair demands. It is the price of the office, and it was known before the oath was taken. Whoever sits there must show a whole country what it looks like to be human, caring, and respectful on the days when that is easy and on the days when it costs something. And because the occupant of that chair is human, mistakes will come. They always do. The strength lies in what follows: to pause, to see where one went wrong, to say so, and to offer an apology. That is not weakness, Mr. President. It is the rarest form of strength there is. For there is listening in order to reply, where we wait only for the gap in which to speak. And there is listening in order to learn, where we allow what we hear to change us. The first is common politics. The second is what actually builds a nation. Pushing one's agenda through every single time is not strength. The leaders the world still honors were not the ones who never made a mistake. They were the ones who could hear the evidence, turn, and say sorry out loud. Being a church elder, Mr. President, you will remember that moment when Solomon became king. God offered him anything he wished for. He did not ask for wealth or long life or the defeat of his enemies. He asked for one thing: an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil. An understanding heart, not a clever head. That is the whole of tonight's message, Mr. President. The whole message in 5 words. And when the prophet Nathan came to David and told him plainly what he had done, David had the power to destroy the prophet. Instead, the king said, I have sinned against the Lord. The kingdom did not fall. It held. It held because the king admitted the wrong he had done, his own failures. And this returns us to the leadership responsibility that opened our very first conversation, Mr. President. The Lord did not say, count my sheep or fill my sheep. He said, feed my lambs, feed my sheep. To feed is to nourish. Our teachers are the ones who feed the lambs. So let us feed them first, retrain them, and pay them from the copper that is beneath our soil. And let us make certain that what we are feeding our children is not facts alone, but an understanding heart. So the invitation of this 10th conversation is not to undo what you have built, Mr. President. It is to complete it, and then to deepen it, finish the corridor, ease the overcrowded classroom, pay the teacher what she is owed, then take the greater step, move our classrooms from memory toward thinking, from thinking toward feeling, and from feeling toward the courage to try. Honor the teacher who asks a child, what do you think? And not only, what is the answer? And show us, Mr. President, on 13th August, the people of this country will not only be choosing a leader who can solve their problems, they will be choosing one who is able to hear them and learn from them. Mr. President, I have a few questions for you to reflect upon as you go to bed. If a machine can answer every question of fact, what is our school for? When did I last change my mind because of what an ordinary citizen said? When my words have wounded someone, what holds me back from saying sorry? Am I listening to my people to reply to them or to learn from them? And one question for us to my fellow Zambians. On 13th August, are we choosing the voice that shouts loudest about our problems or the one most able to hear us? Until next week, hold these with me, Your Excellency. May we open more classrooms and may we equally open the minds within them. May our leaders teach us by what they do and not only by what they say. May we learn the strength that lies in saying, I was wrong. May educating this country be the work of all of us as one Zambia, one nation. May God hold this country with both hands. Good night, Your Excellency. Good night, Zambia.